The chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with cold light as thousands of eyes watched from rising tiers. Some eyes wide and wet, some like knives, some like mirrors that did not care about what they reflected. The air hummed with whispers and soft clicks and the slow breath of machines. At the center, a round table of black stone waited like a silent judge. They had called this meeting to settle a simple question. What to do with Earth? The chair's crest lifted high as he spoke. Humanity will kneel, he said, his voice smooth like oil. It is better to end this now, before they grow stubborn, before their pride spreads. The chamber laughed, soft at first, then louder. A wave that rolled over the stone. A counselor with hard silver scales tapped the map. Stars shifted above the table. Human space in pale blue. Council worlds in gold. This is a child's border, he said. They have a few ships. Nothing more, a few barks, no bite. Another counselor with wings like glass added, they love loud words and sentimental songs. But wars are not songs, they are numbers. And our numbers crush them. In the audience seats, a cleaning drone rolled past the feet of ambassadors. Its tiny lens blinking. No one watched it, no one cared. Behind its steel shell, a second lens hid in shadow. It was not a council machine. It was not here to clean. It was here to listen, a soft chime rang. The human envoy has arrived, the hallmaster announced. The doors slid open, a single human walked in. A woman with a calm face and a plain dark suit. No guards, no banners, only a small case in her hand. She bowed her head. Thank you for the invitation, she said, her voice even. The invitation was not a kindness. The chair replied, it was a chance for mercy. You can take it now, kneel for your world. And we will be gentle. The woman looked at the great map above the table. She did not look impressed. May I speak before you read your terms? She asked. The chair smiled like a blade. Speak. But know that words do not move numbers. Humanity remembers, the envoy said. When the sky fell on us with disease and ash, you laughed. When your ships passed our radio cries, you changed your path to avoid us. We remember. Silence moved across the chamber, not from shame but boredom. Old stories, the winged counselor said. We discuss power, not tears. The envoy opened her small case and placed a metal disc on the stone. The disc hummed. A faint red line appeared on the star map. It was not part of the council display. It was new. It was moving. A thin curve that threaded behind gold systems like a quiet river-cutting stone. What is that? The scaled counselor asked. The chair flicked his crest. An aide sent a command. The map ignored it. The red line kept drawing its path. An admiral in the audience stood. Those are supply corridors. He whispered. His whisper carried, those are ours. How do they know them? Another voice snapped. The envoy kept her face calm. We learned by listening, she said. You spoke loudly and thought the void was empty. We walked behind your echoes. We counted your engines. We tasted the heat you left behind. Laughter tried to rise again, but it did not find air. The chair leaned forward. Little tricks, he said, even if true. They are not teeth. They are dust on the table. Here are the terms. He lifted a slate. Earth will deliver its shipyards, its gates, its leaders. It will kneel and it will pay. Refusal means isolation. Refusal means fire. The envoy did not look at the slate. She looked at the ceiling, where the map hung like a night sky. The red line brightened. With your leave, she said, we deny. A low shock ran through the hall, a sound between a gasp and a growl. The chair's crest shook. You misunderstand your position. Your refusal is not a new word in this chamber. It is an old mistake. The cleaning drone paused near the table. Its tiny wheel made a soft tick. A blue light touched its shell, only for a breath. Then it was gone. No one noticed. Not even the envoy, but someone somewhere received that blue light. A counselor with skin like polished wood raised a thin hand. If we must waste time, let us enjoy it. Tell us, human. The first star you will lose. It will be your lesson. The envoy tilted her head. The first star, she said, will not be ours, the chamber murmured. She spoke again, clear and slow. It will be Core Aster, your forward depot, your hidden heart, your secret that feeds 6 fronts. The admiral looked up so fast his crest feathers hissed. How do you know that name? he said. The question came out like a shout. The chair slammed the slate to the stone. The black table rang. Who told you? He demanded. Who betrayed this council? The envoy did not blink. No one, she said. We read your numbers. We found your shadows. We followed the heat of your ships like wolves follow breath in winter. We saw the freight that never arrived on public ledgers, but always reached your lines. We do not need your whispers. We have your weight. The chair smiled again, but the smile had strain. You are clever with maps, but you forget distance. Core Aster is weeks from your borders. Your ships are slow, your pilots are green. The line of war is not crossed by wishes. It is crossed by engines, and your engines are weak. The envoy pressed a finger to the metal disc. The red line changed. It split into many fine threads. Each one touched a gold system. Each thread pulsed once. Not lines, she said, paths. How many paths? The winged counselor asked. His voice no longer music. Enough, the envoy said. A hum rose behind her words. A hum in the walls, in the floor, in the stone table. The map flickered. For a heartbeat, it showed something else. Not council gold and human blue, but a field of small, bright sparks. Each spark labeled with a simple human word. Pack, relay, mirror, ember. Then the map returned. The sparks were gone. The chair looked at the aides. Fix this, he said. But his voice had lost weight. The aides moved their hands. Nothing changed. The envoy lifted her case. We have heard your terms, she said, and we give ours. We kneel to no throne. We bow to no crest. But if you choose mercy, we will listen. If you choose fire, we will answer, the scaled counselor hissed. Her threats are theater. Humanity bluffs because it has nothing. The envoy's eyes were calm. Once we had nothing. She said, now we have memory and we have work. She turned to leave. Another soft chime echoed through the chamber. It was not the hallmaster's bell. It was older, deeper, a tone tied to the council's own blood. An alarm, one the audience had not heard in a generation. The star map shifted on its own. A gold system near the rim blinked red. Its label crawled and then became a single word. Disturbance? Which system? The admiral demanded. His aide swallowed. Core Aster, he said. 2 words barely shaped. The hall did not laugh. The envoy paused at the door. This is not a warning, she said. This is a clock. You started it long ago when you chose our hunger for you to mock. We are not coming to kneel. We are coming to stand. And when someone stands, a shadow must move. She walked out, the doors closing with a quiet sigh. The chair stared at the map with the red blink. No one spoke. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. The cleaning drone rolled on, its little wheel ticking. It left the chamber like a servant who had finished a small job. Outside, hidden relays woke in cold space. A line lit, then another, then 100 more. Not bright, not loud, just steady. The council had wanted a ceremony of kneeling. Instead, they had lit the first minutes of a war. And the hall, which loved the sound of its own voice, discovered a new sound that day. The sound of fear learning a name, humanity. The stars above Earth glowed cold and quiet. But under that silence, the planet no longer slept. Factories thundered through the night. Steel poured into molds. Sparks burst like tiny suns. And workers stood shoulder to shoulder as the lines moved without pause. The streets outside were filled with whispers. People asked the same question, what did the council say? Some thought Earth would kneel. Some feared surrender was the only chance to survive. Yet the leaders had spoken with one voice. And that voice had said no. In the great hall of New Geneva, the leaders of Earth gathered again. Their faces were tired but sharp. A wide screen flickered with the council's demands. The slate carried back by the envoy. One man leaned forward. So, they expect us to give our shipyards, he laughed bitterly. If they only knew how deep our shipyards run. A woman beside him spoke softly. They do know. They just believe we cannot use them fast enough. The envoy who had stood before the council was there too. She placed her case on the table. The red lines are confirmed. She said Core Aster was struck, not fully taken, but struck. The room froze, you mean? Asked another. The first wave has already moved. She nodded. Our shadow fleets have begun. The map glowed with faint lines moving outward. We are not waiting for their fire to reach us. We are carrying fire to them, outside the hall. Soldiers trained in vast yards. Rows of men and women marched under the dark sky, boots striking like drums. At the edge of the yard, recruits barely older than boys struggled with heavy rifles. One fell, his weapon clattering. A commander lifted him up. "You will carry it or you will be carried," he barked. The boy's face burned, but he lifted the rifle again. Around them the air shook with engines. Great ships rose from the docks, grey hulls gleaming with fresh paint. Each ship carried no name, only a number. But to the people watching, they were more than machines. They were walls against the storm. News spread quickly. In markets, people gathered around small screens, seeing the flicker of warships lifting from the oceans in far villages. Children watched streaks of light climb into the night. Some cried, some cheered. All knew the world was different now. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council's admirals moved their own fleets. In the war chamber, a scaled admiral hissed, "They dare strike Corasta. The Council should burn them now." Another admiral shook his crest. "They cannot sustain this." "It is a spark that will die in vacuum yet," whispered a third. Sparks spread. The chair cut their talk short. "Gather the fleets, teach them fear. Make Earth a lesson," but whispers of doubt had begun. Reports from scouts reached the chamber. Human ships were not weak. They moved with strange precision. They did not break when outnumbered. They fought like those who had trained for this war their whole lives. The chair dismissed the reports. "Old soldiers always exaggerate." He said, "The truth will burn them away back on Earth." A secret meeting was held in a deep bunker under stone and steel. The envoy stood with generals and scientists. The room shook as engines roared above. A scientist with pale hands tapped a glowing model. "We have finished Phase 2, he said. The envoy asked, "Can it hold?" The scientist hesitated. "It will hold long enough." "Perhaps. What is Phase 2? A general demanded. Not liking the half-answer, the envoy looked at him. "You will see when the stars burn in orbit." The first great fleet assembled. Dozens of ships locked into formation. The flagship, larger than the rest, sent a single message across the void. "To the Council of Worlds we do not kneel, we rise." The message was caught by listening posts. Transmitted faster than light within hours, every corner of the galaxy buzzed with the words. Alien markets fell silent. Outposts whispered of human madness. Some laughed, some shivered. A small race enslaved on a mining moon passed the message in secret. And for the first time in years, they sang, "But in the shadow of victory lurked danger." Scouts reported a massive council fleet moving toward the rim. Hundreds of ships heavy with fire. The human generals studied the map. The envoy spoke. "They expect us to defend the rim." She pointed to a different star. "We will not defend, we will strike, said one general. "With what? They outnumber us 3-1. The envoy's calm voice cut through. "Then we must make one worth 3. She pressed a command into her case. A hidden channel opened. The map flickered again, showing not just Earth's fleet, but something else. Dark shapes, unnamed, moving in silence. They were smaller than warships, but fast. Their paths threaded deep into council space. "Saboteurs," whispered a scientist. "Shadow fleets," the envoy said. "They are already near the fuel depots. The supply lines. When the main battle begins, the shadows will cut their heart." The room was silent. Then a general struck the table. "If this works, the galaxy will never see us the same. If it fails, Earth burns." The envoy looked at him. "Earth was always burning," she said. "Now we choose the fire." That night, as Earth's fleet moved into the dark, the people of the world watched the skies. Families held each other. Children pressed faces to windows. No one knew if those leaving would ever return, yet no one begged for surrender. The Council had waited for humanity to kneel, but all across Earth, knees bent only in prayer, and when they rose ready for war in the cold of space. 2 fleets moved toward each other. Stars caught between them like silent witnesses. The first war of humanity in the galaxy had truly begun. The void stretched endless and black. broken only by the faint glitter of distant stars. In that silence, two fleets crept closer, one born of centuries of conquest, the other of desperate determination. The Council's warships gleamed like golden knives, their hulls etched with symbols of old victories. Across from them, Earth's fleet moved like steel shadows, engines burning cold and steady. Every human soldier knew the truth. This was the test. The first great clash that would decide if Earth's defiance was madness or destiny. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Keller stood with hands behind his back. His voice was calm but sharp. "They outnumber us 3-1. But numbers do not decide battles, decisions do." The crew listened, faces pale but eyes steady. A young officer whispered, "Do we really stand a chance?" "Sir," Keller turned. "Every chance," he said. "If we remember, we are not fighting for thrones or crowns. We are fighting for home." The Council fleet moved first. A wave of light surged across the void as missiles launched. The human sensors screamed. Shields up, the command came, and the ships braced. The first strike hammered against human defenses, shaking hulls, tearing smaller ships apart. But the line held, the void filled with fire, like a storm of suns bursting and dying all at once. Inside a Council warship, Admiral Therick smiled. "You see," he told his officers, "they cannot withstand us. Crush them, and bring me their envoy in chains." His words echoed in the chamber. Yet beneath the roar of victory came the first note of doubt. "Reports from the flank, Commander," the aide stammered. "2 of our fuel depots have gone dark. Sabotage." Therick slammed his claw against the table. "Ignore it, the battle is here." Yet in the back of his mind, a whisper grew. If the depots fell, the supply lines weakened, back in human formation. The envoy herself stood behind Keller, watching the map. "The Council believes this is the main fight," she said. "But it is only the curtain," Keller nodded. Shadows move while swords clash, as if on cue. A second wave of alerts lit the screen. Shadow fleets striking deeper than expected. Fuel depots gone, relay stations silenced, panic moving like fire through the enemy's back lines. But victory was not easy. A human frigate broke under heavy fire. Its hull split open, men and women lost to the void. The cry went through the channel, voices breaking, Keller's jaw clenched. "Hold formation," he commanded. "Do not break." For every ship lost, they must lose 3. A sudden silence cut through the human bridge. Alarms shrieked. A massive Council battleship moved forward, larger than anything humanity had faced. Its cannons flared. A human destroyer vanished in one strike. Officers gasped. One whispered, "How do we fight that?" The envoy stepped forward. "We do not fight it with one blade," she said, "but with many." She turned to Keller. "You know what must be done." Keller gave the order. "Break the line." The fleet shifted, not in retreat but in a split. Smaller ships weaving in and out, confusing enemy sensors. Missiles fired not at the battleship's shields, but at its escorts, stripping away protection. Then 3 human cruisers dove close, their hulls cracking under the pressure, engines burning beyond safe limits for Earth. One captain shouted before slamming his ship straight into the battleship's side. The explosion tore a hole in its armor. The battleship reeled, its shields collapsing in fragments. Human fighters swarmed into the gap, pouring fire where the wound had opened. On the Council bridge, Therick snarled, "Impossible!" "These creatures choose death as if it is life," another officer whispered. "They fight like a species that has already died and risen again." The battle raged on. Fire filled the dark. Ships broke apart. But humanity refused to kneel. Every loss only pushed the survivors harder. The Council line faltered, and for the first time in centuries, their warships began to fall back. Their admirals shouted for discipline, but discipline cracked under fear. Then came the unexpected twist. The human sensors picked up signals, not Council reinforcements, but transmissions from nearby colonies of lesser species. Messages of revolt, outposts rising against Council rule, inspired by the sight of humans refusing to break. The envoy read the messages aloud. "They see us," she said, "and they remember their own chains on the Council flagship." Therick's face twisted. "If this spreads, the galaxy will unravel," he hissed. He ordered retreat. But retreat was not victory. It was an open wound. and the wound bled across the stars as the enemy ships pulled back. The human fleet held the field, battered but unbroken. On the bridge, silence fell, then cheers erupted. "We held," an officer cried. "We held." Keller's face softened for the first time. "This is only the beginning," he warned. But the envoy's eyes shone with fire. "The beginning is enough," she said. The galaxy thought humanity would kneel. Instead, it now knows humanity can make it bleed. The stars burned with the wreckage of fallen ships, light flickering like dying candles. Yet among that ruin, a new light grew. The light of a world that had chosen defiance. Humanity had not just survived the first clash, it had turned survival into a weapon. And the galaxy would never forget the day Earth's shadow reached into its golden heart. The wreckage of the first battle still drifted in cold space, twisted metal glowing faintly as fires died in silence. But the war did not end there. It only grew. The Council fleets had retreated, yet their pride would not let them hide for long. Across their empire, orders rang out, summon reinforcements. Call back warships from distant fronts. Crush Earth before rebellion spreads on Earth. The news of victory spread faster than light. In cities, people filled the streets, cheering as images of broken Council warships appeared on screens. Soldiers returned home for brief hours, greeted with tears and pride. But beneath the celebration, the leaders of Earth felt no peace. They knew the Council would return in greater force. The envoy stood before the assembly and spoke. "They will come again, stronger than before. But strength without unity is a hollow blade. If we strike where they are weak, we can break them further." In hidden bunkers, maps were drawn and plans formed. The Council believed humanity would defend its borders, but humanity had no intention of waiting. Shadow fleets had already torn through supply lines. But now the goal was bolder: strike at their worlds. Strike at the heart they thought untouchable. General Keller leaned over the map. Every strike must serve two purposes. He said, not only to destroy, but to inspire. When others see our fire, they will rise. The first target was chosen, Varos, a Council world rich with fuel and factories. It was guarded, but not heavily, for no one believed humans could reach it. The fleet prepared in silence, ships rearmed, hulls patched. New recruits drilled until their hands bled in the dead of night. The great fleet rose again from Earth's seas and deserts. Families stood in silence, watching trails of fire vanish into the black sky. A child whispered to his mother, "Will they come back?" The mother held him close. "They must," she said, "for if they do not, none of us will at Varos." The Council workers lived under strict command. They knew nothing of rebellion, they only knew obedience. Yet one night the sky shook, human ships burst from warp. Dark and sharp, sirens howled, but it was too late. Human fighters dove on the fuel fields. Explosions tore across the horizon. Towers of flame rose high. The workers watched with wide eyes. Some fell to their knees in fear. Others whispered with trembling voices, "They are not weak." The Council fleet stationed there rushed to intercept. But they found themselves cut apart by precision strikes. Human captains spoke few words, only commands: cut the engines, target the relays, no mercy for the ships. Mercy for the people in ours. Varos burned. And the Council realized its empire was not safe. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. Lesser species, long chained, felt something stir in their hearts on mining worlds. Slaves refused to work. On colonies, old banners of rebellion rose from the dust. They whispered the same name, humanity in the Council chamber. Chaos filled the air. Voices clashed. "We must crush them now," one cried. "They are only one world, they cannot last," another argued. "But what if they are not only one?" whispered a third. "What if others join them?" The chair slammed the table. "Enough, we will not let them grow." Summon every fleet, burn their skies. But doubt had already spread. Whispers carried in the shadows. Whispers that the Council had misjudged. For centuries, no species had dared rise. Yet humans had not only risen, they had struck first. And each strike made the Council weaker back on Earth. The envoy and Keller watched the burning of Varos through reports. The people cheered, but Keller's face was grim. For every world we burn, they will send 10 fleets, he said. Can we survive their storm? The envoy looked at him with steady eyes. Storms can drown a lone tree, she said, but a forest bends and breaks the wind. If others rise with us, we will not be alone. Her words soon proved true. On the edge of council space, the first rebellion ignited. A species once thought broken rose in arms. They sent a message across the stars. We rise because you rose, humanity. You are not alone. The council fleets began to split, torn between crushing Earth and putting down rebellions. Their strength turned against itself, and the galaxy watched as the once untouchable empire started to crack. But with every victory came greater risk. Human fleets pushed deeper. Supplies stretched thin, lives lost, ships falling to ruin. Each triumph carried a shadow in one such battle. A human cruiser was cut off, surrounded. Its captain sent a final message: hold your line. We will burn so others may break through. The ship detonated in a blinding flash. Taking 3 enemy warships with it, on Earth the message was replayed. People wept, but they did not despair. They whispered the words like a vow. Hold your line. As the flames of war spread, the galaxy changed. The Council's golden worlds no longer seemed eternal. The name of humanity was no longer spoken with laughter, but with fear. The envoy stood once more before the leaders of Earth. The fire has started, she said, and it will not end until the galaxy learns that we kneel to no throne. Not theirs, not anyone's above her, the star map glowed. Golden systems turned red one by one. The war was no longer about survival, it was about transformation. The galaxy had waited for humanity to kneel, but instead it watched as world after world burned. And in the fire a new truth was written. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the storm. The flames of Varos had not yet cooled when the galaxy trembled again. Across the void, human fleets pushed deeper, their shadows reaching worlds that once believed themselves untouchable. The Council scrambled to hold the Empire together, but cracks spread faster than they could close. Whole systems whispered rebellion, colonies refused shipments, and fear began to crawl into the hearts of once proud rulers. On Earth, there was no celebration, only work. Shipyards thundered night and day, soldiers trained until their hands blistered. In the war chamber, the envoy stood before the leaders, her voice calm but sharp. They thought Varos was fire enough to scare us. But we will burn brighter. Our fight is not only for Earth, but for every world that waits in chains. General Keller studied the map, his face grim. They're gathering a massive fleet, he said. If they reach Earth with full strength, all of this ends. The Council had indeed summoned their greatest armada. Thousands of ships gathered near the core, larger than any fleet seen in centuries. On the bridge of the Council flagship, Admiral Therix hissed to his officers. Humanity spreads rebellion like disease. Cut out the heart and the body dies, one officer asked. And if the body rises without the heart, Therix slammed his claw, then we burn the body too. Scouts brought warnings back to Earth. The fleet is moving, one reported. They are marching toward us like a wave of gold fire. Keller clenched his fists. We cannot hold Earth against that alone. The envoy's eyes narrowed. Then we must change the field. She touched her case. A small device glowing faintly. What if Earth is not the battlefield? What if we choose another? The generals argued. Some shouted for defense, others begged for retreat. But the envoy's voice cut through. We will not defend Earth by waiting. We will defend Earth by carrying the war to their throne. A silence filled the chamber. She spoke again. If they expect us to kneel, let us make them kneel, not with words, but with fire in their own skies. The plan was dangerous, perhaps impossible. The fleet would split, one part striking targets deep in Council space, the other holding the rim. It was a gamble, a blade thrown at the Empire's throat. Many thought it madness, but in the eyes of the soldiers, there was no fear, only resolve. One young pilot whispered to another, better to die standing in their skies than waiting in ours. The fleet moved, stealth ships leading the way, weaving through the dark like ghosts. They struck at relay stations, silenced communication hubs, and cut hidden lines the council thought safe. Every strike was a message. Humanity is not prey. Humanity hunts in the council chamber. The chair's crest shook with fury. These creatures know nothing of war. Yet they cut us as if they do. We must crush them now. Another councillor whispered, "Perhaps they do know war. Perhaps they have always known it." The chair's eyes flashed. "Silence, or you will speak no more." The human fleet reached their next target. Solvar Prime, a shining jewel of the council, rich and proud, guarded by fleets and defended by planetary shields. No one believed humans would dare touch it, but the humans did not come to dare. They came to strike. The battle began with silence. Human ships drifted in shadow until the first missile tore across the void. The defenders scrambled, caught off guard. Fighters launched, alarms screamed. The human fleet pressed forward, striking hard and fast. Each explosion lit the skies of Solvar Prime. A message written in fire. The people below watched with fear and awe. Whispers spread. The humans are here. And they do not kneel, but then came the twist. The council had laid a trap, hidden warships uncloaked, massive carriers that had waited for the humans to strike. They opened fire, tearing through the human flank. Ships cracked. Men and women screamed across comms. Keller's voice rang out, "Hold the line, cut their carriers." The envoy stood still, her eyes on the map. "They want to break us here, but they do not know." She pressed a command, and suddenly the shadow fleets appeared. Small, fast, and deadly, they had slipped past defenses. Now they struck the carriers from behind, ripping into their engines. The trap turned back on the council. Their carriers burned, their formations shattered. Human ships surged forward, breaking through the shield grid. Explosions lit the capital towers. Solvar Prime burned in its own pride. On the council flagship, Therix's voice shook with rage. "They are not an army. They are fire itself, and fire spreads," his officers whispered. "If even Solvar falls, what world is safe?" When the battle ended, Solvar Prime lay in ruins, not destroyed completely, but scarred, its people broken of faith in the council's strength. On Earth, the message spread. Humanity had struck at the Empire's jewel and lived. The people cheered, but Keller's face was cold. "This is no end," he said. "It is only more fuel." The envoy looked at him and replied, "That is enough, for fire lives on fuel across the stars." Oppressed worlds began to rise faster, carrying banners not of Earth, but of freedom. The Council had wanted to make humanity kneel, but now it was their golden empire that bent under the weight of flames. The galaxy had changed again. Humanity was no longer a rumor of defiance. Humanity was a storm that burned brighter with every strike. And every world that fell into shadow whispered the same truth. The Council cannot stop them. The galaxy waited for humanity to kneel. Instead, it watched as humanity carried the war to the gates of power itself. And the gates trembled. The skies above Solvar Prime still smoldered when the news spread. Humanity had struck deep into the Council's jewel and lived to tell the tale. Across the galaxy, rebellion grew louder, chains broke, and whispers became open shouts. But victory came with a price. The human fleet was battered. Ships torn, fuel low, lives lost. In the war chamber of Earth, silence hung heavy as the reports were read aloud. General Keller's voice was hard. "We are bleeding," he said. "For every world we strike, we pay with our own. We cannot burn forever." The envoy stood opposite him, her face calm but her eyes sharp. "Fire does not need to burn forever," she said. "It only needs to burn until the forest changes." A young officer entered the chamber, trembling, a new message from the front. He said, "It is not from our fleet, it is from them." The screen lit up with the seal of the Council. The chair's face appeared. His crest lifted high. "Humanity," he spoke. "You believe yourselves bold. You believe fire makes you strong. But fire consumes, fire ends." He leaned close to the lens. "You will not end us, we will end you." Keller's jaw tightened. "Let him speak," he muttered. The chair continued. "Our fleets march for Earth itself. We will not chase you in shadows any longer. We will come for your sky, your soil, your children, and when we are done, your name will be ash." The screen cut to black, the chamber filled with voices. Some demanded defenses, others shouted for retreat. The envoy raised her hand. "They come to crush us," she said, "but in coming, they expose themselves. If they gather their fleets for Earth, then their capital weakens, their heart is left bare." Keller frowned. "You mean to strike the Council home itself?" The envoy nodded. "Yes. The galaxy believes the Council untouchable. If we strike there, even once, their empire will shatter." The generals exchanged looks of disbelief. One said, "That is madness." Another whispered, "It is the only way." The decision was made. Humanity would not only defend, it would gamble everything. The fleet divided. One part prepared for Earth's defense. Families fortified shelters, weapons hidden in every street. The other part prepared for the most dangerous mission yet. A strike at the Council's capital, a place no enemy fleet had ever reached. As the ships readied, soldiers wrote letters. Mothers kissed children goodbye. Pilots traced their fingers over old photos before sealing helmets. In one hangar, a young recruit whispered, "Will anyone remember us if we fail?" A veteran beside him answered, "They already do, that is why we fight." The journey to the Council capital was long and deadly. Patrols scoured the void, traps waited in silence. Twice the human fleet was ambushed. Twice they clawed their way out. Ships burned, men screamed, but still they pressed forward. Each step felt like walking deeper into the lion's den. At last, the capital system loomed, a world of shining towers and endless fleets. More ships than humanity had ever seen in one place. The admiral on the human flagship stared at the sight. "It is impossible," he whispered. The envoy stood beside him. "Then let us do the impossible." The first strike was sudden. Human ships burst from shadow, tearing into outer defenses. Explosions flared across the black. Council commanders shouted in disbelief. "They are here! They are in our skies!" The capital shook as alarms screamed. Civilians watched from towers as fire blossomed above. For the first time in centuries, the heart of the Council knew fear. But victory was not the plan, the envoy had told them. "We cannot conquer the capital, but we can scar it, and a scar never heals." Human cruisers dove at defense platforms. Fighters streaked past golden fleets. Missiles lit the void. A massive Council battleship loomed, its cannons tearing human ships apart. Still the humans pressed forward. One shouted across comms, "For Earth," another screamed, "For every world in chains." Then came the twist. Deep inside the capital's network, shadow fleets hidden long before awoke. Not ships, but codes. Silent infiltrators that hacked the heart of the empire. Lights across the capital dimmed. Fleets lost communication, stations shut down. The Council commanders roared in rage. "What is happening? Who betrayed us?" The answer came not from within, but from the human fleet outside. "We are the betrayal." The human ships, outnumbered and burning, pulled away, leaving behind towers of smoke and broken pride. They had not conquered, but they had struck. The capital of the Council was no longer untouchable. It had been scarred, and the scar would spread on Earth. When the fleet survivors returned, the people wept, not in despair, but in pride. For the first time, the galaxy whispered not of a rebellion, but of a war that could be won. Keller looked over the star map, red lines spreading across golden worlds. His voice was low. "They will come for us harder now." The envoy stood beside him. "They already have, and yet here we stand." She raised her hand, pointing to the capital system still flickering red. "And there, so do we." The galaxy had waited for humanity to kneel, but instead it watched as humanity scarred the throne of power itself. And the fire that had started on one small world now threatened to consume an empire. The war was far from over, but the truth was clear. Humanity no longer fought to survive. Humanity fought to change the stars.